Hi, this is Sue Jackson of the Book by Book blog, and I'm here with another Friday Reads. I've had a wonderful reading week with a nice variety, so I can't wait to share that with you. First up, I am reading The Personal Librarian by Marie Benedict and Victoria Christopher Murray. I've been wanting to read this book for a long time. I had heard about it last year. I really enjoyed Marie Benedict's The Mystery of Mrs. Christie, which is about the real life mystery surrounding Agatha Christie when she disappeared for a period of time. That book was very well done, and I definitely recommend it. This was chosen as the April book for my neighborhood book group, so I was really happy to have a chance to read it. Got my copy out of the library, and I'm almost finished with it now. Very much enjoying it. So it's about the true story of a woman named Belle DaCosta Green. At least that's the name she went by. She was the personal librarian to J.P. Morgan and had a large role in building his very well acclaimed and very well known Pierpont Morgan Library in New York City. So that's part of the story about it. It begins in 1908. So women did not typically have this kind of power at that point, or even these kinds of jobs. Most librarians in this sort of role were men. So just the fact that Belle was a woman is part of the story. But a bigger part of her personal story is that she was actually Black and passing as white. Right in the beginning of the book, her mother came from a well-known, well-off family in Washington, D.C. And so she grew up. There wasn't a lot of racism in her community. I got the idea it was mostly well-to-do Black citizens in the area where they lived. So she grew up in this sort of protected way. Belle, her mother, and her siblings were all fairly light-skinned. So after they moved to New York, her mother decided that they would all pass as white because she could see the segregation in New York, and that, the areas where the Black families lived were not as nice as the areas where the white families were. So even when they didn't have much money, they could live a better life, and she felt like her children would have more options in life if they passed as white. This caused a rift with her father, who was well-known and working for equality. So he left. So that's kind of the backstory. That's all right at the beginning of the book. So Belle gets this wonderful, powerful, very high-profile position with J.P. Morgan as his personal librarian. She is socializing with the Carnegies and the Vanderbilts, all the Gilded Age, upper-class families of that time, and keeping this secret. So it is a fascinating book. I'm really enjoying it. I'm almost to the end now, and very glad that I've read it. The Personal Librarian by Marie Benedict and Victoria Christopher Murray. So, big moment for me last week. I have mentioned that I only had a very old Kindle, black and white, didn't do anything special, no touch screen. And so in the review world, a lot of reviewers have switched to digital copies only, including graphic novels. Normally, I review a lot of graphic novels, but about a year ago, most of them switched to digital. I was still requesting paper copies from some of the publishers, and they were kind enough to do that for a short period. I finally got an iPad mini for Christmas, thanks to some of the advice that some of you gave me, and I'm loving it. And it is giving me the opportunity to finally get back into graphic novels. So this took a little doing because this is all new to me. I've never had a tablet before. I've never had an iPad. I've never downloaded. The publisher provides the graphic novels as PDFs. I had no idea how to get PDFs on my iPad, nor how to actually read them. So did a lot of Googling last week and figured that out. Very pleased now to be able to read some graphic novels on my iPad and to get back into reviewing graphic novels, which I really enjoy. So this is a nice fit for middle grade March. This was the first one I decided to dive into. I've got like 10 new ones now. A First Time for Everything by Dan Santat. This was just published in February, so it's new from First Second. And I love First Second's books. They publish so many amazing graphic novels for all ages. This one is middle grade. It is basically a memoir of the author's 3 weeks that he spent on a European trip, a study abroad program that he did during the summer with some of his classmates, plus some kids from another school. So it was the summer between 8th grade and high school. Dan really didn't like school, didn't enjoy middle school. He was bullied a lot. He was teased a lot. Like most 13-year-olds, he felt very self-conscious about everything. And so, any amount of teasing made him feel like he just wasn't worthy. He's not looking forward to going to high school, but his parents send him on this 3-week European trip. And he's not even all that excited about it at the beginning. But this is both a coming-of-age story of how this 3-week trip kind of turned Dan's life around. But it's also like a travel log of this amazing trip that they took. So I wanted, it is harder digitally to show you some examples of the photos. This is poor Dan getting made fun of at school when a teacher asks him to recite something in front of the entire school. But the best pictures, obviously the author, if this is a memoir and it's a graphic novel, obviously the author draws. And this trip was also the point where he realized how big a part drawing and art played in his life. So Dan makes some new friends on the trip. But there's still some like mean girls that are on the trip with him. They stop in Paris first. I think they go to like 5 countries. I was trying to remember that. So there's, another page from the book. But at one point, on this page, I think, Dan's camera stops working. And that's when he decides to draw what he's seeing. So it is both the graphic novel, both tells the story of this trip that Dan took. But also, you see Dan's drawing continue to improve along the trip and what an important thing that is to him. So that's A First Time for Everything by Dan Santat. Very much enjoying this. And on audio, I'm listening to another middle grade book for middle grade March, The Midnight Children by Dan Gemeinhart. I love Dan Gemeinhart's novels. Some of my favorites were The Remarkable Journey of Coyote Sunrise, The Honest Truth. He's written some amazing books. I always enjoy them. This one's about a boy named Ravani. I think he's about 12 years old in the book. Ravani's very lonely. He doesn't really have any friends. Like Dan in the graphic novel, he gets teased a lot. There are some really nasty bullies that have chosen him to pick on. It's just him and his mom and his dad. They live in a town called Slaughterville, named after the town's main industry, a slaughterhouse. And the book does not shy away from the gruesome details of what their town's industry is and what happens in the slaughterhouse, which I find interesting. It's, this is for middle graders. There may be some vegetarians coming out of this book. But the main point of the book is that one night, Ravani is looking out his bedroom window at around midnight, and he sees a truck pull up to the abandoned house across the street. And 7 kids carrying suitcases get out of the truck. And little by little, he begins to meet these kids. One is a girl about his age named Virginia. And she and Ravani get along really well. They start to become friends. And eventually, Ravani is let in on some of the secrets of this family. And they have a lot of secrets. So no spoilers. There's a little touch of magic to the book. It's mostly set in the real world. The extent of the slaughterhouse defining this town is a little on the satirical side, but ultimately it is a story about friendship, about finding your people, about found family. I'm almost finished with that one as well. I'm hoping to finish all of these by the end of March, and really enjoying The Midnight Children by Dan Gemeinhart. So that's it for me this week. I would love to hear what you've been reading. Let me know in the comments down below.